And now that I've accepted that truth, I don't fear those things anymore. I know that everything is energy and everything is alignment. And if I'm standing in my truth and honoring my power and honoring who God made me to be and living for Him and His call on my soul and my life, that is all the fulfillment I need. And that has given me so much more reward in life and so much more unconditional love within myself. Welcome to Becoming, a collective of soul-led journeys. I'm Nicole Toudouze. I created this show to inspire those going through a season of becoming, self-discovery, rebuilding, or personal transformation to find courage, spiritual embodiment, and inspiration as they answer the call God has placed on their heart. If you're looking to deepen your soul purpose, your soul mission, or just learn more about why you're here, welcome to your sanctuary. Before I bring you the souls you're going to meet on this journey and you hear their stories, I'm going to share a little bit about my own becoming so you understand how we got here today and why the show exists. And to help me do that, I have Chelsea, my very loyal, dedicated, and amazingly talented social media manager, here to interview me.
We cannot wait for you guys to hear Nicole's story. I know that there's so many people, especially women and mothers, that can relate to everything that you've been through. And I just know that it's going to touch so many people.
Thank you. I'm excited.
So before becoming and before starting all of this, who were you and what did your life look like?
Wow. Yeah. When I think back to even just 18 months ago, the woman that existed, I don't truly believe that I had an understanding of who I really was. And I was living my life and creating an identity around what was expected of me. You know, everything was very performative, very self-sacrificing, very lots of self-abandonment for most of my life. And it took some time and a little bit of realization to come to the understanding that a lot of that was stemming from me living my life and sort of embodying more of my trauma and wounds than who I really was at a soul essence. And, you know, I'm a firm believer in God will put us through lessons and cycles and patterns over and over and over again until we wake up. And there came this moment where it was just clear to me that, well, I guess it wasn't clear to me. It started more with like asking questions before the clarity came. And it was like, why? I feel like I love hard. I feel like I have a good heart. I feel like I've made all the right decisions. Why then, when I look around at my life, does it look like chaos? Does it look like heartache? Does it look like betrayal, abandonment, mistakes that I've made, mistakes that people have done to me? You know, no matter how hard I try or how hard I fight, the business isn't growing fast enough. The relationship isn't sustaining. Everybody's disappointed or upset, you know, and you start trying to understand if I'm living in faith, if I'm, you know, following God, if I'm doing all these things, then why does my life not reflect that? And by asking myself those questions, I started to realize that it was because I was searching for everything externally outside of myself. My, you know, like unconditional love, I thought that had to be given to me. I didn't realize that I could embody that on my own or give that to myself. Success, I thought that meant self-abandonment and being a doormat and, you know, people pleasing and all of that, when in reality, it's boundaries and sovereignty and vision and clarity. Before becoming, before my inner knowing, I was, I think, your stereotypical mom of three, eldest daughter. You know, a woman who thought she understood faith, but truly didn't. A woman who thought she understood love and didn't. A woman who thought she understood what success and growth looked like, but didn't. Because we tend to adopt what the world or society or the powers that be, the systems in place, tell us that all should look like and what we should look like and how we should be living our lives. And I feel like for a lot of my life, I was checking boxes. I was just doing what I was supposed to do because as the eldest daughter, that's what I'd always done.
Yeah.
And so, and not that I never have regrets ever anymore. I used to, but now I understand that everything happens because of divine plan and divine orchestration, and that there is a reason for everything. And so I obviously have these 3 beautiful kids. I have had a successful career, but none of that brought me the fulfillment that my soul was craving. And I couldn't understand why. I couldn't understand why, you know, the more boxes I checked and the more ways I tried to show up perfect and as the best and, you know, as the giver, I was just left feeling so empty and lack of love and void of love. And prior to this journey, I would say that was a woman who had buried herself deeply beneath a life and an identity that was built for everyone else.
Got you.
Yeah.
When you say that you buried yourself and, you know, you're finally releasing this version of yourself that's your soul essence, essentially, what do you mean by that exactly?
So the soul essence was discovered. I went through a really severe ego death. I mean, really severe, sort of dark night of the soul. And I think the majority of people may not know what that means. And I didn't before I went through it. I really didn't. I was not a spiritual person. I was a religious person. And I think a lot of people think that that's just spiritual jargon or new age BS or whatever. No, it's real. The underworld exists, and the whole point of life is to go through it, to get out on the other side. That's the resurrection. And the soul essence was something that, without going into that underworld, without facing the deepest, darkest shadows of my soul, both from this lifetime and also ancestral trauma and wounds that had been passed down through my lineage, that soul essence could not have been awakened.
Okay.
It truly takes going into the depths of, like, even Jesus in the Bible, he talks about you have to go through Hades. Like, you have to meet with Hades to essentially ascend and become divine. And so I went through that journey. I mean, it was lonely and terrifying. And, you know, I think that the soul essence, to answer your question, is what is born from that. Because when your entire life, I mean, every aspect of your life crumbles around you and you are standing there looking yourself in the mirror and you don't see yourself looking back and you're just like, who have I become and what is this life I've created and who am I to God and who am I to the world? You know, that only truth at that point can remain. You shed all the layers of conditioning, societal conditioning, familial conditioning, ancestral trauma, mass media, brainwashing, you know, you shed it all out of force, honestly. And I truly believe that God had a purpose for me, a call for me. I know that now. And that required me to go through that process to be able to see the vision, because without discovering that true soul essence, which is essentially who you are created in God's eyes. When I say soul essence, it's who you are in your most authentic embodiment, in your deepest truth, without fear of rejection, without fear of abandonment, without fear of outside opinions or failure even, right? Like starting this podcast, I could lose clients because of how honest I'm being and raw. You know, I could lose friends. I've lost family, lots of family. And, you know, that was something before that would have destroyed me and terrified me. But now that I'm embodying that true soul essence, I know that that is always the most important thing, that there is not a mask that I will put on, an identity that I will portray, a role that I will fill, and I won't silence my voice anymore. It's like I am living in my honest truth moving forward. And that means more to me. That's the entire point of life. That's the entire point of life. What are we doing if we're not doing that? And now that I've accepted that truth, I don't fear those things anymore. I know that everything is energy and everything is alignment. And if I'm standing in my truth and honoring my power and honoring who God made me to be and living for him and his call on my soul and my life, that is all the fulfillment I need. And that has given me so much more reward in life and so much more unconditional love within myself. And not only that, the people who love me unconditionally and are aligned with that, they're not going anywhere. My people are still here, the ones that love me in my truest form. And those are the only people you want in your circle. You don't want to perform for other people. You don't want a life built on facade. You know, you want to honor God. He created you to live in your fullest expression. And that's what you came here to do. So fear goes out the window. When you commit to that, when you decide that that's going to be the path that you're going to walk, the fears subside organically on their own. Because you know that, like, you're walking in not just truth, but your soul's in the driver's seat. Not other people's opinions, not your family, not your even, like, you know, colleagues or whatever. Like, at this point, whether it's work or personal, everything's about alignment for me. And if I'm not your cup of tea or whatever, you know, that's okay. It's okay not to be accepted by everybody.
Definitely.
Yeah.
When you talk about shedding these things, how did that process work for you? Was it little by little you just started shedding day by day, or was it like a process with each individual thing that you're finally letting go of?
Yeah, it's been a process and it's still a process. When you start on this spiritual path, the work is never done. It's never finished, you know? And I really think Jesus, Yeshua, like, that's a lot of what his teaching was. Like, the work is the inner work every day, not what's outside of you. And the shedding happened, I think, it's happened in phases. I will say that I think first my life had to sort of fall apart, because when everything hits rock bottom and the floor opens up and swallows, and the earth swallows you whole, which is literally what ego death feels like, it leaves nothing but clarity. Like, and so things started falling away, like relationships that weren't aligned, family that wasn't aligned, work that wasn't aligned, partnerships that weren't aligned. The way I structured my day and spent my time, things started to feel unnatural for me. Saying yes to everything. I used to say yes to everything. I was so scared to tell people no. I never wanted to disappoint people. I was the ultimate people pleaser. And now I have no problem saying no, holding my boundaries and structuring my day-to-day life in a way that helps me to flourish and be the best version of myself. And so it's been every second of every day, the shedding. Yeah. And the crazy thing is, and this is something I would say I've learned more recently, is the more that you shed and purge, whether that's trauma coming to the surface, cleansing your energy, cleansing your aura, you know, the more that you shed and purge, the more your nervous system can hold what is meant for you. And so when we think about, you know, one of, I think, the hardest things to learn in life is release, surrender, and letting go. So when you say, was the shedding gradual, I would say the very first lesson I probably learned was the surrender component, because I've always been a little bit of a control freak. A lot of that stems from really deep anxiety that I've had my entire life from my childhood. And so I needed to control every aspect to feel safe, because I have never felt safe in my own body. And I have learned to just completely surrender to the universe and to divine plan. I give everything to God. I lay everything at the feet. And it's such a, you get so much freedom in your spirit
from
doing that,
right?
Because you're like, okay, you slowly kind of earn the trust of surrender. So it's like, okay, I've released what happens to the company. It's struggling, whatever. I have released the outcome. And then that getting rid of that weight, like, I can't tell you what that did for my soul to put that weight down, to say this isn't mine to carry, that my family's trauma isn't mine to carry, that all this generational trauma is not mine to carry, that I don't have to keep living in shame about my divorce, that just because I make mistakes sometimes doesn't mean I'm not an amazing mother, and just totally surrendering everything to God and being like, you have to live as present in the moment as possible is another thing I struggle with. And that goes back to like the control thing. Is one, our society is designed to make sure that we cannot be present. They want us anxious. They want us living in those low vibrating energies of fear and anxiety and stress and depression. And they create the system and make us operate in it to make sure that we stay in those low vibrational frequencies because they don't want us ascending. And surrender says, I refuse to live here in this lower spectrum. I want to vibrate high. Therefore, I'm not holding on to these weights. They're not mine to carry. I release, I forgive, I heal, I accept, I surrender. It's not always that intuitive. Sometimes it takes a lot of intention to be able to get there with certain things. Like, I've been single a long time now, celibate and single, and dating, for me has been tough, especially like after going through an awakening and being so respectful of that true essence, soul essence. And that has, I'm somebody who loves so deeply and loves partnership and companionship. And, I want nothing more than to find my partner and build with them. But the old me would have let that fear of being alone or that fear of lack really take control. Whereas now I know all in divine timing.
Yes.
Like, I surrender that to God's plan. I that's not for me to decide. That's not in my control. The right person will find me when I've fully prepared and that person has fully prepared. And that goes back to the alignment thing, right? And so a lot of the shedding is surrender. A lot of the learning to embody the soul essence is surrender and trust in that everything works out in the timing that it's meant to work out in. And that's so much easier said than done.
Yeah. Do you think that since you've had this awakening and you don't require so much outside validation, do you think that it's harder to connect with people? Do you see a difference in that?
Yeah. Now, I will say, part of spiritual awakening is learning to embody unconditional love, that divine love. And it's the same love Jesus carried in his heart, Mary Magdalene, all the disciples. And it's something that I strive for every day. So that unconditional love brings tolerance. So you are more open-minded and open-hearted to everyone you meet in your journey, for sure. You can accept people in their truth as they are because you've learned to accept yourself in your truth as you are. So you can return that favor to others. But it's the being awake part when you're walking around in a sleep world with their eyes closed on autopilot. That feels, and I don't mean that in like a holier than thou way. I was there 18 months ago.
Yeah.
And without having gone through this experience, I would never have known there was anything different. But it does make it difficult to connect sometimes. And not from a place of, again, I'm better than somebody, or I struggle with surface level conversations.
Gotcha.
I struggle with if I'm in a situation that maybe isn't conducive to my truth, it's really hard to put on the mask and pretend. You know, you want your boundaries and your intuition and your inner knowing will immediately reject what is not for you now, because you are operating in such clarity that you can discern so quickly, for me, not for me, so quick.
Yeah.
Whether it's a person, a job, a path, a calling, for me, not for me, so fast.
Yeah.
And that can make your cutoff game. I was just telling Christy, catching up on dating, and I was like, my cutoff game is strong. Just like, you know, if it's not in alignment, I can cut it off really fast. And the same goes with a client that's not a fit, or a friend who maybe can't meet me where I'm at anymore, you know, because I've changed so much, and that's okay. It's no one's fault, but you have, and what comes with awakening too is the ability again to release. And so you can release things with love and respect and forgiveness and go, okay, this person used to be a really good friend of mine, and we've shared so many amazing moments together, but people change and evolve, and life, you know, changes. And so you get really good at being able to go, I bless and release what does not bring me peace. Like if something's not in alignment, I do that all the time. I bless and release what does not bring me peace. Anytime I cleanse my energy or whatever. And, you know, you just learn to have unconditional love for everyone and everything that happens, because you understand it is all for your highest good. Just like the Bible says, he works everything together for our good. I know that without a shadow of a doubt now, because I went through the deepest, darkest, scariest times of my life. And on the other side was hope, peace, joy, love that I've never known, you know, and it took going through all that to get there. It wouldn't have happened any other way. And so you just have to understand that maybe everybody's journey is different, and not everybody has gone through that and can show up in their full essence or full awareness or full truth, you know, and be willing to say, that's okay. That doesn't make you wrong. It's just, I'm on a different path. Right.
Yeah.
And,
is that your hope for everyone
yes.
to go through this journey?
Yes.
Is that part of the reason why you kind of wanted to start becoming and get your story out there?
Yes. Yeah. Yes. The unconditional love, the relationship with my higher power and my higher self, the spiritual purpose that's driving every breath I take, the life that I live, the way I parent, the way I lead, the way I take care of my family, the way I take care of my friends, how I take care of myself. Should have started with that. Still learning.
So you mentioned this is a new journey for you. 18 months is really not that long, but you've changed so much.
It's been a lifetime.
Yeah. What was that like pivotal moment? What do you think is like the cause of this whole awakening?
I think it's a lifelong buildup for sure. And you don't realize that until the pinnacle of it happens, the climax happens. And then you go, oh, now I get it. All the dots connect, all the whys behind what you went through as a child in relationships, whatever, it all starts to connect. But was there a specific catalyst? Yes. Usually for a true spiritual awakening, a true jolt to the soul, a true ego death, there is usually a catalyst. And for me, and the catalyst is like this giant mirror that's like, all right, you've been avoiding everything. Now you have to look at it, right? That's the catalyst. I was after my divorce. So the divorce started the awakening for sure. Because I had built an entire identity around this storybook family that was so poster perfect. And not that any of that was wrong. My children have had an amazing childhood. I have enjoyed raising my family. Wes and I had lots of great moments. But you start to realize like you're not who you thought you were, or you don't understand life the way you thought you did, right? How could I have gotten here? I'm somebody that never would have gotten divorced. Ever. If you had told me, in my 20s that I'll end up getting a divorce, I would have laughed in your face. That was so not even in the realm of possibility for me because of my values and faith. But then there you are, facing the very thing you swore would never happen. And it takes something like that to open your eyes. Well, so then, I'm starting to sort of, I would say that was the catalyst for more self-discovery.
Okay.
More trying to understand myself, more expanding my mind to understand that life isn't always once upon a time happily ever after. And it's not always, a clear straight linear path from A to B. And that things can happen that we don't expect, And then after the divorce, I got into a serious relationship and lost myself in that relationship. And
how so, would you say?
Oh, in every way. In every way. Because I was still in that self-abandonment, self-sacrificing, that's how I show love mode. I was allowing things in my life that I shouldn't have. I was allowing treatment of myself that I shouldn't have. And I slowly, psychologically started shutting down until I became an operating system for him. And I would have done anything, right, to make him happy.
Yeah.
Including everything and anything that was not good for me. And, or the people I loved, unfortunately. And I handed my entire life to this man on a silver platter, naively. But that's how I show love. I give everything, all of me, all the time. So I handed him my life on a silver platter, my identity, everything, and even my children. Which that's taken a lot of work around shame and forgiveness.
Yeah.
But I started to realize, I guess, maybe a year and a half, 2 years in, that he wasn't entirely the person I thought he was, that the relationship wasn't turning out to be what I had hoped. And it became a very dark consumption of my life. I realized at one point that I had not had the most blissful childhood, and there were a lot of patterns and cycles within my last relationship that mirrored my childhood. And it took getting out of it to see that. But I was essentially I went to a lot of therapy over this. Like before my awakening, I did a lot of therapy and inner work and healing.
Were you just like connecting dots of
Yeah,
things
that's
that
like the self-discovery part of it, which is the first phase. The first phase is like, how did I get here? Who am I?
Gotcha.
And that usually starts with like therapy and going to church and reading the Bible and, your typical sort of things most humans reach for when they experience a hardship like that or a loss of self. I started seeing these patterns. And at one point, I just remember thinking in this horrible day, on this horrible moment, you dumb bitch. You have risen from everything you've risen from in your life. You have overcome everything you've overcome. You have fought so hard all alone to just dive right back into the wounds that you are trying to heal from, grow from, just repeating the past, just repeating. I had never really known what unconditional love looked like. I've never been taught that. And so I didn't have a definition for it. So I lived most of my life making up my own definition or recreating what I knew love to look like based on the definition I had received of it. It was in that moment that I just was like, how did I get here? And it literally, when I say it feels like the earth opens up and swallows you whole when you have nothing left. I had lost most of my friends because I'd been isolated. I had, my business had taken a hit because I had lost my clarity and vision. And I was just full of self-hatred and complete absence of self-worth and value, to the point where I couldn't look at myself in the mirror, couldn't sleep at all. And I'd like to say I left. I didn't. but he did.
Mm-hmm.
And just overnight, which now I realize like that was God's protection, divine protection over me. You know, at the time it felt like a bad thing, but looking back, I realize that was God protecting me, removing me from that. It just ended overnight, so quick, as quickly as it had been built. And it was terrifying because I had given everything I am and everything I had to this person who could have left me in the blink of an eye without a question or thought or ever looking back. And what that did, because I'd been through that before all my life, was trigger truths I could no longer run from. Wounds that I had buried and ignored all my life. So I was forced to look at the shadows, and there were a lot of them, and they were dark. That, I would say, first 3 months after that catalyst, I never left my house. I had lost all desire, joy, peace. It was a really dark, really, really dark time for me. I was purging a lot. And at the time when I was going through it, I didn't realize that that's what was happening. That I was going through a spiritual cleanse, that I was awakening, that I was going through the ego death, and that I was in the dark night of the soul. I had no idea what any of that meant. I just wanted to literally die.
Yeah.
And, you know, I would just pray, God, just please make it end. You know, it was a lot of not sleeping for weeks on end, literally physically ill. You're like vomiting all night. That's when people think ego death, they think it's just a figurative thing. No, you have a physiological, neurological reaction at a visceral level to what God is pulling out of you onto the surface for you to release. And it was hard on my body. It was hard on my mind. It was hard on the, you know, I didn't have my kids as much because I literally couldn't show up. Mostly because, not because I was heartbroken, because I knew that relationship ending was the right thing. It was because I felt like I could no longer trust myself.
Yeah.
Like I had betrayed myself and betrayed that little girl that I was supposed to be protecting when no one else would.
So do you think that was like the metaphorical mirror that you mentioned earlier? Yeah. Just like showing you everything else that you have experienced from a young child to that point.
And how it's all connected.
And how it's all connected.
Yeah.
That is
very
powerful.
You know, I saw this reel the other day that was like, the moment I realized I had built an entire life acting out of wound, like my wounded child, and it would not change anything that's happened. But it was like, I wasn't doing it authentic, you know, I mean, it was authentic, but it was,
were you kind of just like going through the motions instead of?
I mean, yeah, I think we all are, most of us, or have been. It was more so, here's what it is. You can't hold what your heart wants if you're not the person who can hold it.
Okay.
And so when people pray and then God doesn't deliver and they go, oh, you know, my kids are always like, I pray all the time and God never answers my prayers. Like, what? Why am I praying? You know, it's the understanding that just because you pray for something doesn't mean you're prepared to hold it. And I wanted love, deep, unconditional, lifetime's love. And I wanted the perfect family that I had never had. And I wanted to be successful so I would be valued and seen and adored in ways that I had never experienced in my life. Ultimately, none of that was ever going to come to me until I integrated my shadows, until I healed, until I understood the why behind why I'm here. Because how can you call in what's meant for you if you're not living a life aligned with who you really are?
So after those 3 months of basically just purging all of these feelings and all of these unhealed wounds that you've had for years. What do you think that like snap of a finger moment was, or what do you think led you to say, okay, like this has to change? Like where did you begin, I guess?
Some of the things I mentioned earlier. So the Bible, reading the Bible again, really working on my faith, journaling my thoughts just to get clarity. Because it's not a snap of a finger. It's a slow roll remembrance.
Okay.
It's a slow roll remembrance. So once you do the purging and the cleansing and you're back at what I would call 0 point, once you get back to that point of origin of who you were when you were created, and it's a remembrance, and it's this slow but intentional, led by God, unfolding of revealing yourself to you. And as the revealing starts happening, you start recognizing, oh yeah, I've always had the love within me. I've always been worthy. I've never needed anyone else to give me that. Other things that really got me there, I'm heavy into meditation. I do it a couple hours a day, every single day without fail. I never slowed down before. I lived at the fastest pace imaginable, wearing as many hats as possible, playing as many roles as possible, because the busier I stayed, the less chance my wounds would catch up with me. Oh, but did they? Oh, but did they? And I just thought, if I keep playing by life's rules, if I keep wearing the hats, if I keep putting the mask on, if I keep being what everyone demands of me, needs of me, requires of me, eventually I will get love. But that's not how it works. Nobody can love you until you love yourself.
100%.
It took me 38 years to love myself. 38 years, y'all. That is a long life to not love yourself.
Yeah.
And, you know, part of the motivation to do this work, when you ask about like, how did you get back there? My kids. When I was in the really dark place, I just thought, and it goes back to like connecting the dots, because you're like, okay, well, they're my only purpose right now. Like if these kids weren't here and they reminded me, God, children are amazing, and how they remind you about unconditional love. Because when everyone else turned their back and left me and walked away, my kids still saw me as Superwoman. Even in my shittiest times, even when I couldn't get out of bed, when I wasn't cooking or taking them places or playing games with them because I was bogged down by dark. They loved me through it, and they forgave me. So the remembrance really starts with learning to sit with yourself again. I couldn't be alone with myself. I remember my very first therapy session after the divorce, because I'd been in therapy all through like the marriage failing and knowing like something needed to change. I'd been gone to a lot of therapy, but my therapist right after the divorce, I remember my first session, she says, Nicole, I don't know that you know how to be still and be alone. And it hit me like she was so right. I did not know how to be alone. I did not know how to be still. I did not know how to listen to my own voice. I did not know how to let my heart guide me. I did not know how to place boundaries at all. I had zero boundaries. I did not know how to navigate life from a place of self-worth. And when God stripped everything away and there was nothing but the kids and trying to keep the company going, I started sitting with myself quietly for hours, going inward. I never did that before.
Did you find it difficult at first?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a practice. It takes training. Like like a fitness regimen.
Mm-hmm.
Now I am expert.
Yeah.
Like transcendental is like was never an accident for the name of the company. Like that is what I have been able to become expert in is transcendentalism and ascension, soul ascension. And so with this meditation practice that I had implemented in my life, when we're talking about like my daily regimen and what sort of helps me stay in alignment and stay grounded and stay in my truth and remember who I was at the soul essence. The meditations were probably the biggest key because in our world, institutionalized religion and education system and career and just even the way we date, right? Like the way relationships are established now, everything is about seeking answers outside of yourself. And no one ever teaches humans, as children, we should be learning this. The kingdom of heaven is within. The kingdom of heaven is within. Your bridge to God is within. And when you are so far detached from your inner world, you are so far detached from God. And I just thought, as long as I'm doing all the things they're telling me I'm supposed to be doing to be a good Christian or be a good Catholic or be a good follower, then I'm okay. But that wasn't the reality. I mean, the truth was I had zero relationship with God. Not a real one, not a true one. And learning to go within and seek the answers within myself, because we all already have them in us. The universe is within us. We are made of God light. We are divine beings, and everything we need is within us. Infinite wisdom, infinite potential, infinite knowledge, infinite love. We are a fully abundant species. That's God's promise. We don't need to make ourselves smaller. We don't need to have limiting beliefs. We don't need to limit ourselves. And that was a lot of the realization and remembrance I started to come to through these meditations was I have everything I need for the life I want within myself. And not that people can't add value to your life. That's not what that means. It just means if I'm in a relationship and somebody decides I'm not for them and they walk away, when before I would tell myself it's because of you, A, B, and C. You're not good enough. You're not pretty enough. You're not smart enough. Why did you say that? They think you're weird. Why did you blah, 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 right? Like you analyze yourself and break yourself apart to know why you're not worthy for that person. And it was like the same thing in my marriage, you know, like we just never could get on the same page with how we showed love. And when I wasn't receiving the love that I needed, I began feeling like I wasn't worthy of it, you know, and that voice became louder and louder and louder year after year after year. You're not worthy. It's never going to, you know, and now I know that if that person leaves me, that's not a reflection of my own value or worth. It's not because I'm not good enough. It's because that's not the one sent on assignment. I don't need to fill any space. I am fully abundant on my own. I am fully love on my own. I don't need more money, more relationships, more friends. I don't need that. All I need is truth and a connection to my higher self and higher power. And that will bring me the life that I am worthy of. So in addition to the meditation, other parts of my regimen, I've always been into fitness. I've always been a very nutritional person. I'm a very clean eater. But I never really looked at my body the way the Bible looks at the body, which is it's an altar, is a temple. Your heart is the bridge between heaven and earth. And you are the portal. You are the vessel. We are God's creation. We are the vessel. We are how God expresses himself in humanity, in the world. And when you look at everything in your life through that lens of like, okay, now let me look at my body through that lens. I am a vessel for God. Why would I not put the purest things in my body? Why would I not take care of my body every day? Try to get stronger every day? Why would I not make this altar pristine and, you know, centered and grounded and strong, right? And when I started looking at my body that way, it leveled up my passion for fitness, but not just for the sake of like losing weight or looking good in a bikini. It became more about body, mind, soul connection. And so now I run because I get a lot of creative downloads when I run. That's when a lot of my downloads hit me. And that's when I get a lot of intuitive hits from God, is when I'm on that run and my head is clear. And, you know, I mean, you know, Chelsea, I'm surrounded by people and voices all day. All I do is talk to people and listen to people talk. And literally, like, that's my job. And so when I go on these runs, it's like the whole world fades away and it's just me and God. Same with the meditation, right? And I can just like open my mind to whatever message he wants to deliver to me, and it will just come flooding in. And I think it's something too about like when we think about energy, when you got that adrenaline pumping through you,
you're releasing
your heart is
endorphins.
pumping because your heart is this electromagnetic instrument that God uses to guide you. And that's where intuition comes from. It's where discernment comes from, same as the pineal gland. And when, like, you know, I've got my bloodstream pumping and I'm got that energy going, I feel like that brings, like, opens me quite a bit to those downloads. And my nutrition is impeccable, vitamins, all of that. Again, this isn't like, these are just my personal choices, and these are just the things that have changed my life. I don't think people are bad if they don't do things the way I do them, or that they're wrong in any way. Everybody has to go through their own journey and make the choices that's right for them. But I'm just sharing from, you know, what's worked for me. When I do all those, and I do them every day, the way I can show up to lead with certainty and softness versus reactivity of being overwhelmed or overstimulated or whatever. My head is clear. I'm grounded. My nervous system is regulated. I can show up and lead and make clear decisions and really move things forward because I am operating as my highest self versus in these lower frequency realms. And it's the same thing for like in a relationship or in motherhood. Like my kids have seen drastic changes in me and they talk about it all the time, and they don't even have to say anything. Like you can just see it in their interactions with me. I mean, we've always been close, but the way they gravitate to me now, because I embody this softness, this regulated nervous system, this joy, this unconditional love, they can just feel that aura. They can feel that soul essence. And because it's more who mommy really is versus who mommy was before, it's almost like they find so much safety in that and want to draw close to that because, oh, this is who mommy really is. Mommy is so happy now. Mommy is so loving now. Mommy is full of love, and we just want to be around that, you know?
So why did you start becoming? What was the purpose of all of this?
I'm not quite sure yet. We'll see. I bet. I'm not quite sure what the end game is. That's not of my control, right? Like that's, God has called me to this. This was absolutely a call placed on my heart, just like Transcendental was. And this even more so because it's done out of my truth. It started sort of as this whisper in my heart. And when the heart whispers, just know that's God talking, or your higher self. It started with this whisper in my heart that was like, look at this transformation. Look at this journey you've just been on. We have to talk about. It's a testimony, and it needs to be said. And other people need to know what they're capable of, and other people need to know how to come home to themselves, how to go through this remembrance, how to find soul purpose in this life. Everyone deserves soul purpose in this life. And Becoming was created to share stories of people led by soul purpose who also felt that whisper. And right now, for Becoming, the whisper is embody truth, share stories, inspire, heal, guide, lead, and help others grow. Because the state of the world that we're living in right now, we're going through a massive collective awakening. All you have to do is look around you. What the world is missing is vulnerability, connection, true, deep connection, not based on anything other than what's honest and real and pure. And so creating a sanctuary or space where those conversations can happen, where depth is not feared, where vulnerability is not feared, where people can show up and be honest and share their truth without fear of rejection.
Yeah.
And inspire others to become their highest self, to become their true soul essence, to become who God created them to be. The show exists to hopefully, even on the smallest scale, even if it's one person, open eyes, open hearts, so that they can become who they are truly meant to be, who God created them to be. That's my goal.
What wisdom have you gained since becoming, and what do you lean on regularly?
I think going back to standing in your truth and embodying your truest form, no matter what approval you get from anyone else, when you understand that everything is energetic alignment, you understand that in order to receive what is meant for you, you have to live in your truth, which means you stop caring about what everyone else says, what everyone else thinks, what everyone else's expectations are. The performative, sort of way of living is gone. And it just becomes about embodying and living in the frequency that is the most authentic to you. That way, what God has meant for you can magnetize to you, because without that alignment, the things meant for you, the things God has planned for you, just keep kind of circling you because they can't land, because you're not in the frequency that you need to exist in for them to come in safely, and for you to hold them without self-sabotaging them or letting your wounds, interfere with being able to hold them, or, live your highest expression, or, live your highest path. So whenever I'm facing a decision or going about my day or navigating something or dealing with people, it's always going through this filter for me of, is this in alignment with my truest form? Is this in spiritual alignment? And if the answer is no, it's not for me, and it's not a path I pursue, and that's not a person I pursue, and that's not a decision I will make. If the whisper tells me it is for me, that is in alignment with my highest self, then I know that that is the path that gets me on my highest timeline. And we haven't talked a whole lot about timelines. I think that's going to be another episode, but timelines, quantum field, all of that comes with spiritual awakening. You start to realize that the world as you see it doesn't stop at the five senses, guys. It doesn't stop at the five senses. There's so much more that in existence that people don't even realize. And so you can sort of access higher timelines, higher paths by raising your frequency, right? Like we talked about earlier, authenticity is the highest frequency you can embody when you're looking at the energetic charts. The lowest is fear, anxiety, depression. Right under authenticity is unconditional love. And so even above true unconditional love, the highest frequency is authenticity, which I think is just the key to success. Like if you can understand that and operate at that high frequency and be vibrating in your authentic form, then your entire reality starts to shift and change around you. And that wisdom is something that I've gained through energy work, through understanding what my truth is and really having the courage to walk in that on a day-to-day basis. And that right there has been the key for changing my entire life. It has changed my entire life. Just having that perspective and letting that be my guiding principle and my life philosophy. And the thing is, we're all absolutely capable of doing it. It's just we've been taught to fear it. We've been taught to fear being who we really are, being too much, especially women. You know, men are always like, you're too much. I'm like, find less, right? Go find less. Like, maybe I am too much for some people, but for a lot of people, I'm exactly what they want, need, desire, want to be around. And so you can't find like your people, your community, your soul community. You can't find your true deep connection friendships. You can't find your divine sacred union. You can't find your life counterpart, you know, or the people that really can uplift you and help you on your journey if you are constantly bringing yourself down to these lower frequencies and playing small and not living in your full truth and not living in your full expression. Well, of course you're going to magnetize people that aren't meant for you, because you're
100%.
showing the world this is who I am when it's not really who you are. And so your life is going to reflect things that are a disconnect, surface level relationships, living in lack, things like that, because you are playing small at life, and you aren't here to play small at life. You're here to live vibrantly, fully expressed, vibrating high, you know, raising the consciousness and the frequency of this planet. That is why you are here. And until we all do that, you know, things aren't going to change. And that's why the show exists. People need to know that they are capable of this work.
How would you say those hardships shaped you and this new becoming?
Yeah. You know, I'm so grateful for hardship. I think it has brought more to my life than anything else. And I've been through more hardship than most of the people I know. And not that it's a competition, everybody goes through pain, but I've not had an easy life. And I've had a lot of struggles in my life. And what you learn through the awakening and through a rebirth is that, one, obviously you have a level of resiliency and strength within you that sometimes we forget. Like, we forget how powerful we actually are. But also it's taught me to look, when I encounter an obstacle, a hurdle, a challenge, a hardship, when everything falls apart again, or, you know, I experience betrayal or something like that, or abandonment, you know, those types of triggers that before would send me maybe into unhealthy coping mechanisms or a spiral of some kind, or, you know, self-loathing. Now I'm able to look at them like dead on and be like, excuse me, and be like, what is this trying to teach me? Now that I understand that everything's happening for my highest evolution, my highest good, that there is a lesson in everything God brings to my door. When things happen, I can literally look it dead on and say, what are you trying to teach me? What is it I need to learn from this? That mindset can shift everything. Because instead of living in that victim mentality or living in brokenness or living in lack, I'm able to see everything as an opportunity for my own evolution and growth, and to know that everything, even bad, is a gift from God. And so, because when I think back on everything I've been through in my life, my confidence, my leadership skills, my empathy, being wired as a healer like I am, all of those are gifts that my trauma, that hardships, that heartache gave me. Those gifts were born. You know, it's like the gifts of light that God gives us are born and honed in those moments. And when you can start to have respect for that and appreciation for that and live life in gratitude, whether it's a bad day or a good day, and understand that, again, surrender, you're not in control. this is happening for your highest good. What is it? What do we need to learn? What do we need to change? How can we show up? Where are we not in alignment that this is happening, that I'm magnetizing this to me? Where am I not in alignment? Where have I not been acting in my truth? Mm-hmm. And it just makes it so much easier to move through life when you get there, because you are accepting of reality. You're not trying to fight your life or your creator or what's happening. You can hold all of it with love.